In a breaking news update that has shocked the core of America, an investigation is being launched into Donald Trump over his response to the coronavirus pandemic. In a statement to the Washington Post, Adam Schiff says that he's already begun the initial fact-finding and now has launched a bill to create a coronavirus commission to review the president's actions. People across this country were shaken to their cores. No, not really. We're all kind of bored because it's the only thing they've been doing for the past several years. And for some reason, they think they can keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's somehow going to help them win. You see, it's not just about Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi trying to do investigations for the past several years. We've got stories now that apparently Donald Trump launched an ad that was racist, so they're going for the bigotry angle again. We're also hearing that the Democrats must embrace progressive policies and progressive values, which lost in the 2018 midterm, and everyone knows it. Yet for some reason, they keep doing the same things over and over again. And I'll tell you what's really shocking to me. You know, to be fair, I was joking in the beginning where I said the American people were shocked that Schiff would do this. No, they're not. They expect him to do this. But what is shocking to me, yes, it's that he's doing it because he hasn't learned anything. You'd think after the first couple of years, they'd stop and start talking about real issues. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm just biased. Why don't I actually seek out what their plan is pertaining to the economy and American healthcare and schools? And guess what? Nothing. They're talking about Trump. Everything is a reaction to Trump. They are offering nothing to the American people. And still, when I point this out, you know, people say to me on Twitter, well, you just like Trump because of this, that, and this. I'm not even talking about that guy. I'm talking about the Democrats constantly failing, doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result, which, as some on the internet claim, is the definition of insanity. Now, it's an old cliche. They claim it came from Albert Einstein. As far as I can tell, it didn't. But it's the general idea that you are insane if you keep doing the same things, even though you are failing, thinking something different will occur. And that's where we're at today. I have a series of stories for you, and it looks like the media and the Democrats do not live in objective reality. Because, look, if they changed their strategy, I might believe they were trying something. But they're ignoring everything that's actually happened. And now the media actually wants to control the narrative to make Trump look bad, as per usual. Maybe that strategy will actually play out well for them. But for the time being, the Democrats are trapped in the fake news world where they believe what the media is saying. It's going to hurt their chances. First, let's take a look at what's going on with Schiff's new bill to once again investigate the president. Because did you know he's still investigating? There's a bunch of other investigations in the president that are still open. Like even after Trump, the failed impeachment, the trial, they announced that Schiff had currently been investigating Trump's business ties. The dude is literally a do-nothing Democrat. I know it's like a Republican name they call the Democrats, but let's be honest. This is what they're doing right now. People are dying. Okay, we need medical supplies. Gavin Newsom took a stand and said, we're going to source the supplies ourselves, creating a rift, and the progressive activists were cheering, saying, you get him, you go after Trump, and hey, at least I can give him credit for that. He's actually saying, I'm going to deal with this problem on my own. What is Schiff doing over in California? Let's investigate the president, seemingly the only thing he knows how to do. Now, we're going to read this, but before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. There are several ways you can help, but the best thing you can do is just share this video. It really helps the channel grow at a time when YouTube is propping up the mainstream media and striking down independent commentary, so I need all the help I can get. But if you do like this, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit that like button because it really does help. From the Hill, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff on Friday introduced legislation that would establish a commission to review the U.S. response to the coronavirus pandemic. Schiff said, after Pearl Harbor, September 11th, and other momentous events in American history, independent bipartisan commissions have been established to provide a complete accounting of what happened, what we did right and did wrong, and what we can do to better protect the country in the future. It is clear that a comprehensive and authoritative review will be required, not as a political exercise to cast blame, but to learn from our mistakes to prevent history from tragically repeating itself. Under the bill introduced by Schiff, who led the House impeachment process against Trump, the commission would be comprised of 10 members with equal numbers of Republicans and Democrats. Current government officials would not be eligible to serve on the commission. Meanwhile, members would be appointed by the president and congressional leaders of both parties in the House and Senate. The commission would be ordered to make a full and complete assessment and accounting of the preparedness of the federal government, state governments, local governments, and the private sector for the outbreak and spread of COVID-19 in the United States. So on the surface, it really does seem like a good idea. Well, it sounds like they're going to do a complete review. The president's going to be involved. Republicans will be involved. But in a statement to the Washington Post and an op-ed about Trump's handling of this, it was absolutely framed as an investigation of the president. Now, maybe it's not entirely fair to say that's entirely the purpose of it. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I trust Adam Schiff. It's the only thing he's known how to do. And Nancy Pelosi has said something similar. We have this write-up from Human Events. Pelosi and Schiff want to politicize coronavirus with a select committee. The Democrats paralyzed the country with impeachment. Now they want to blame President Trump for the pandemic. So we can see that partisanship plays a serious role in why they're doing what they're doing. And I think it's very important for Adam Schiff to play it off like he's not trying to investigate the president, even though he said initial fact finding was underway, specifically referring to the president's actions. Partisanship is dragging us down. Especially in a crisis, it's the last thing we need. But more importantly, this plays into the bigger point I'm trying to make, and I'm going to show you the evidence that the Democrats can't seem to figure out how to win. If you can't recognize your faults, you cannot win. Now, over here at statnews.com, Democrats scramble to turn the 2020 election into a referendum on Trump's coronavirus response. This is another reason why I think that this is all just, look, I think Adam Schiff, I'll give him a tiny grain of a benefit of the doubt that he actually wants to assess everything, the state level, figure out what went wrong. I don't understand what the point of that would be, though. I mean, I get the general idea about doing this grand assessment, but it's really about, politicizing all of this, and it's what they've been doing. They are trying to use this to win 2020. Why? They don't learn. They've tried investigations before. They seriously just don't learn. In a story from Newsmax titled, "Where have Democrats' media been the last 2+ months?" This article makes a really good point about how they frame the news to make it seem negative all the time. We just saw a story that claimed Trump owned a financial stake in the manufacturer of a drug that he had been touting. As it turns out, it was between like $99 and maybe like $1,500, and it was indirectly owned through a mutual fund. The story was complete nonsense. This story gives us a breakdown and explains some of it. And then I do want to move on to how they're desperately trying to plead with progressives, even though Americans do not want this. First, let's read the Newsmax story. Michael Dorstowitz writes, "People who listen only to those of like minds tend to miss a lot. That was demonstrated Tuesday by a New York Times journalist, a U.S. senator, and a political activist, all of whom claim to be politically astute. Late Monday and early Tuesday, a memo prepared by the Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro came to light, warning the administration that the coronavirus could explode into a pandemic, killing millions of Americans and giving a $5.7 trillion hit to the U.S. economy. Quote, the lack of immune protection or an existing cure or vaccine would leave Americans defenseless in the case of a full-blown coronavirus outbreak on U.S. soil, Navarro's memo said. This lack of protection elevates the risk of coronavirus evolving into a full-blown pandemic, imperiling the lives of millions of Americans. The memo, dated January 29, was addressed to the National Security Council. Republicans and conservatives thought the story was interesting and that it confirmed what they'd already known from the start, that the Trump administration was on top of the situation from the beginning. Liberals read something sinister in the memo. Mind you, it was on that date Trump formed the task force. It would seem he was informed. He took action. 2 days later, he banned travel from China. New York Times White House correspondent Maggie Haberman, who wrote the story for her own paper, tweeted, "Scoop. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro wrote a late January memo warning of a possible pandemic that would cause financial and human catastrophe." Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii, a Hawaii Democrat, referenced the story and went into full caps lock overload. "They all knew and they didn't tell you," he tweeted. Please drop the caps, please. Actress and hard left activist Alyssa Milano tweeted, "January effing 29th, as though the date was proof President Trump had committed high crimes and misdemeanors." However, on January 23rd, 6 days before the Navarro memo, the U.S. State Department had already ordered the departure of all non-emergency U.S. personnel and their family members from Wuhan, China. If they missed the news, it's because they were watching Rep. Adam Schiff on that same day make his closing arguments at the Senate impeachment trial of the president. On January 27th, 2 days before the memo, Vice President Mike Pence told reporters that we're already conducting screening at 20 American airports, and they're the airports that receive 90% of all passengers from China. Any passengers who are ill will receive additional screening. It's understandable if Haberman, Schatz, and Milano missed the Pence presser. On that same day, Senator Chuck Schumer was holding his own press conference about the Senate impeachment trial, claiming that we were all staring at the White House cover-up in the face. That's what they were focused on. I know I've mentioned it before, but here we go again. Schiff and Pelosi with their committees, their reviews, their fact-finding, their investigations. It failed then. It distracted us then. It made the problem worse. But they are diving headfirst into the same thing all over again. I'm absolutely impressed by their ability to do this. The story, this opinion piece concludes. The emoluments clause didn't work, nor did the 25th Amendment. Russian collusion turned out to be a big fat nothing burger. The Mueller investigation was a $32 million dud. Ukraine initially showed promise, but also fizzled out in the end. Last week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced the formation of a secret committee with subpoena power to audit the Trump administration's response to the pandemic. It's her own party that needs scrutinizing. The Trump administration is doing fine. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Trump is perfect. Absolutely not. Quite far from it. But what are the Democrats doing? If they want to win, they have to offer up something to the American people. Here's what we will do. The only thing they're trying to capitalize on is Orange Man bad. That's it. Trump is bad. We don't like him. That's all we have to campaign on. Why don't you offer me something? At least Andrew Yang said, I'll give you cash. That made sense to a lot of people. Instead, they're offering up Joe Biden, a man who doesn't know where he is, has no real plan for what he's going to be doing, and can't talk. Check this out. Progressive youth groups issue demands for Biden ahead of general election. Ah, yes, progressive demands, because that's what works. Because in 2018, progressives did so well, right? No, that's completely insane. Now they're trying this. Democrats say Trump campaign ad singles out lock over race. Ah, yes, bigotry. Because apparently calling Trump racist is what defeated him last time. Oh, it didn't. You're going to try this again? They try the same thing over and over again. None of it works. So we can see that they have no plan. But it's not just about having no plan. It's about not even thinking about what's happening in the immediate, right? I often talk about how they don't think ahead. Hey, if I do this, what comes next? They don't even think about what happened yesterday. It's not so much about planning ahead. It's about remembering what you just did. It's almost like they forgot that the impeachment inquiries and all these investigations don't work and people don't care for it. It's almost like they forgot that the ratings for these scandal television hours on Fox News and CNN, the ratings were going down because the American people are tired of it and they don't care. But of course, here's what you get. From The Atlantic. When will moderates learn their lesson? If centrists can't move past their doctrine and recognize when their candidates are unelectable, then how will Democrats ever beat Trump? Now, this is interesting. They seem to conflate Joe Biden with the moderate Democrats who actually won in 2018. Joe Biden's not going to win because the dude's not all with it. I mean, just look, go watch the Joe Rogan episode with Eric Weinstein. He talks about it. We don't know where Joe Biden is going to be in a year. The dude is clearly sundowning. He's speaking in word salad. The things he says don't make sense. He said recently, we don't let America sakes second fiddle. That's actually what he said. I don't know what that means. Sakes second fiddle. Do you mean take second fiddle? It's a weird mistake to make. But it's, as many people point out, the dude can't speak. Now, I'm not going to go so far as say the guy's got dementia, but some people have said they absolutely believe that to be the case. I certainly think he's getting on in his years and losing the ability to function. Why they would then put this guy up or claim that he represents moderate Democrats is completely absurd to me. Take a look at this story from November 2018 from Vox. Progressive Democrats running in competitive House districts had a bad night on Tuesday. Progressive energy helped moderate Democrats win on election night, but progressive candidates weren't so lucky. No, I think you're wrong, and I think you're trying to desperately justify the fact that, or justify why you had these people run in the first place when they don't help. No, progressive energy didn't help. Please stop. I don't want to hear it. What helps is that, for one, a lot of the liberals aren't actually paying attention and might mindlessly vote for Biden regardless of what he talks about, or because the media is protecting Biden. One of the things they do is Biden will say a sentence that's complete gibberish and they'll edit it because they want to get the gist of what he was saying. The dude can't speak, and he does not represent moderates in this country. It's not just Vox. The New York Times. Moderate Democrats fared best in 2018. A North Carolina election is also a chance to think about what kind of candidate might do best against President Trump. Look, man, there are people in media who recognize what's happening. The data exists, and we know. But the Democrats keep trying the same things over and over again, and they just don't make sense. Biden faces a new challenge: how to unify the party. Now, I think that's a fair point to make. Even if Joe Biden, they're trying to embrace these progressive policies because they know they're going to lose all of these voters. The way I see it, they're targeting the far left instead of targeting the center. Many people on the left, progressives, people like the Young Turks, for instance, have said that they want to awaken a new voter base of progressives who believe in these policies but who normally don't vote. One of the problems, that includes the youth vote. The youth doesn't vote. They didn't show up for Bernie Sanders, so Bernie Sanders lost. But if you sacrifice one centrist, let me put it this way. If the progressives the Democrats ignore the far left, who's the far left going to go vote for? Donald Trump? Never going to happen. So they probably won't vote, and that's what we're seeing. But if the Democrats go for the centrists, if they go for people in the middle and moderate liberals, they would actually have an opportunity to take away some voters from Trump. If they go to the far left, then the people in the center will have no choice but to vote for Trump, and they do not view the orange man as the nightmare demon the left thinks he is. They have no problem voting for the president. In fact, in response to the president's actions on the coronavirus, independents and even many Democrats warmed up to him. Yet, of course, they're going to keep trying the same things over and over again. Biden courts Sanders voters with student loan healthcare policies. Oh, there we go. You see, Joe Biden is trying to move away from the center to court these progressives by offering up things that aren't really good for either faction, moderate or far left. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden on Thursday proposed expanding access to Medicare and forgiving some student debt in new overtures to supporters of one-time rival Bernie Sanders. Biden, who became Democrats' presumptive nominee when Sanders ended his campaign on Wednesday, is working to close ranks. His new proposal includes expanding Medicare, government insurance for Americans over 65 to those 60 and older. He also promises to forgive student debt for lower income Americans who attended public colleges and some other educational institutions. Senator Sanders and his supporters can take pride in their work in laying the groundwork for these ideas, and I'm proud to adopt them as part of my campaign at this critical moment in responding to the coronavirus crisis, Biden said in a statement. The real path to success for the Democrats will not be necessarily the far left or far left ideology, but populist positions like Donald Trump is in favor of. Now, Bernie Sanders is never going to get the support of these people, and I think we all know it, mostly because they view him as an old crony. And this is a mistake that the Democrats can't seem to ever understand. You won't win them, and Joe Biden is not a viable candidate. Over at the Washington Post, Dave Weigel wrote a post-mortem for the Bernie Sanders campaign. In it, he says, Democrats went out of their way to capitalize on Sanders' brand. They tapped him for a series of swing state rallies ahead of the 2016 general election. After their defeat, they added him to the party's Senate leadership team for the first time. While Sanders' opponents in the party defeated Keith Ellison, his candidate to run the Democratic National Committee, new chairman Tom Perez added Ellison to his team, then went on a national unity tour with Sanders. The crowds were there for the senator, not the DNC's new leader, and Sanders knew it. In an April 2017 interview, he recalled how the unglamorous party building work he'd done in 2016 was dwarfed by the excitement for his own campaign. Listen, they kept trying to embrace Bernie. They really, really did. But you know what? It's not going to play out the way they think it is. There is a fringe vocal minority that the Democrats are chasing after. You've got one faction that seems to think all they have to do is scream that the president is bad, and another faction who seems to think we should target socialists, and that's our path to victory. Joe Biden does need to unify the party. I don't know how he's going to do it, but I think the more that the Democrats entertain Sanders and the more progressive far left values, the more they are building up Democrats to expect these policies and to embrace them. And that will ostracize independents. Over at The Hill, they wrote, Trump's greatest allies for a 2020 win are AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, and the Squad, saying, according to internal Democratic polling, the Squad is beyond toxic for the Democrats in the 2020 swing states. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may be popular among the Democratic base, but her favorability among voters the Democrats need in the states that matter is hovering around 22%. Further, only 9% of swing voters polled have a favorable view of Rep. Ilhan Omar, while socialism clocked in at a not exactly awe-inspiring 18%. Public polling from CBS News further confirms that many Americans view the squad unfavorably and that Trump has room to make them even more disliked among the electorate due to their currently limited name ID. And at the same time, amid all of the problems we are facing, U.S. shares see their biggest weekly gain in 46 years. And once again, like clockwork, Trump hits record approval in Fox News poll. Now, some might say Fox News is biased, but the reality is that Fox News has been fairly unkind to Trump in their polling for some time, and Trump has called them out. And it's also fair to point out that in the RCP aggregate, Trump's actually down about 1.5 points or so. But we are seeing another poll pop up showing Trump being better than ever. This is the latest poll. So maybe we'll see a reversal of the past aggregate polling as the new polls start to come in. These things fluctuate. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. Because every day when I sit down and I look at these news stories, I think to myself, am I really going to give everyone an update on the same thing? Because as much as I can complain the Democrats are trapped in Groundhog Day, I am too. I don't even know what to write for this. I was thinking of being like, well, Adam Schiff has launched his new investigation. Oh, wait, I already said that because Adam Schiff has already started the fact finding last week. So now the bill is out. It's like a slow roll of the same thing happening every single day. And we know it's going to happen. It's going to fizzle. We're all going to see our time wasted. There's going to be stupid TV shows where they're going to have the inquiry. Schiff's going to pretend he's going to furl his brow and be like, why weren't these masks given out? No one's going to care. The ratings are going to drop. And Trump is going to win in November because the rest of the Democrats are too obsessed with progressive nonsense that the average American does not want or care about. Combine the independent base with the conservative base, and you have winners. That's it. You have the majority of the electorate in that regard. So the press and the Democrats can complain all day and night that Republican senators, 17% of the population elects 50% of the senators because of these small states. Oh, go ahead and complain about it. But you have to understand, it's not just conservatives. The moderates are there too, helping the conservatives. And that's why you keep losing. I don't know what it'll take for the Democrats to finally figure out that this doesn't work. You'd think after the first time they stuck their hand in the flame and got burned, they'd be like, fire hot. Maybe after the second time, they'd say, fire indeed hot. Maybe after the third time, they'd stop and say, my hand is gone. It's been burned off. But they just keep doing it. I can't tell you why they do it. Maybe they want to lose. Maybe that's really... Look, I've said before that maybe they're so desperate to stop Sanders, they're willing to sacrifice everything, but they've been embracing Sanders' policies. Why would they do that? I think it's because they don't know how to win. There's no party leadership. There's no professional leadership. And there is a distinct lack of ability in recognizing one's own mistakes on that side. Maybe that's what's created them and separated the current conservatives from the current liberals. Maybe that's why we see social justice as a growing tenet among Democrats, because they can't recognize when something is their fault, so they want to blame someone else. You're free to do so. And then when you lose and you claim the game is rigged or the electoral college is unfair or now we need mail-in voting, all I see is someone with no policy plans, no path to success, no plan for success, and who's constantly complaining about the rules being unfair. You all knew what the rules were when you got into this. You have every opportunity to stop and reflect on your failures, and you won't do it. So you know what? I am not looking forward to another investigation with Pelosi and Schiff and more stupid nonsense. I just wish the Democrats would come out and talk about healthcare or something. I thought maybe it was just me. I looked up Democrats and healthcare and nope. Maybe it's the media. The media won't talk about what Democrats are doing, but I really doubt it. They could hold a press conference to talk about this. They're not. They want to investigate the president. They want to court Bernie Sanders supporters and embrace progressive values, which did not work in 2018 because they lack the ability to learn. I'll see you all in the next segment coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimcastNews. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all there.